What is up, Astros fans? Welcome to episode 48 of the Believe in Astros podcast on the Believe Podcasting Network. Just one week away from pitchers and catchers reporting. Can you believe it? I'm Geoff Blum, and my partner, who's already grinding, I know, it's a season hasn't even started yet, Geoff Blum. You can find us on Spotify, Apple, Stitcher, and of course YouTube. Be sure to like and subscribe to keep up with us. Give us a follow on Twitter at Believe in Astros. You can find me at Geoff Balke and Blummer at Blummer27, pretty much anywhere on social media. My Insta's fine. Blummer's can be lit though. Just be aware.
Yeah. It's about to get going. I got to start. Yeah. I've got to get in mid-season form here quick.
Oh yeah. It's an excellent follow. Thanks to everyone who's given us 5 stars reviews on Apple. If you haven't, come on, man. Obviously, send us your comments, questions. We love seeing all of them. Read them all. For example, who are you picking for the Super Bowl? Blummer and I are already on the record. We think it's going to be a squeaker. I hope it's a high-scoring game, man. I hope it's just like...
Yeah, I want entertainment.
Me too, man. Me too. Between that and Rihanna.
Yeah, and I don't want to hear about a referee. I just want them to call the game and shut up. Sorry.
Exactly. No. You're right. They need to call the game and shut up.
Earlier in the morning. Sorry.
Also, what song is stuck in your head today? For me, it's No Diggity by Blackstreet.
Oh, good.
Apparently, that's how I woke up this morning, is hearing "I like the way you work it." Like that was in my head this morning. Blummer, how are you today?
Well, it's getting exciting. Apparently, outside the studio here at the Blum household, the dogs are losing their marbles, and my wife is trying to collect them. Yeah, no, but it's good. Like you said, it's been a crazy. January was a crazy month. Mm-hmm. February's ramping up. I know that I talked to TK the other day, and both of us kind of looked at each other and like, yeah, it's about that time we got to start studying a little bit. So I'm going to crack the books and start looking at numbers and looking at guys and really looking forward to some of these broadcasts we have coming up at the end of the month.
Yeah, I'm with you. Like that's been my kind of thing. Is I've been making filling up my bookmark with my bookmarks folder with like links and stuff to start prepping as the season gets closer. I mean, some of these guys I don't even some of these people are going to come into camp. I don't know who they are. It's like kind of need to start figuring those things out. So yeah, I'm 100% with you. I will say a quick shout out, rest in peace to one of the great songwriters of all time, Burt Bacharach, passed away yesterday at 94. I saw him with the Houston Symphony one year, a number of years ago. Wow. And the conductor came in and said, by the time you leave, you'll be shocked by how many songs he wrote that you didn't realize. And it's true. He wrote Always Something There to Remind Me. He wrote Borderline by Madonna, which almost no, but yes. Here's the best one. So he wrote the song That's What Friends Are For, which of course turned into a big AIDS charity hit with Dionne Warwick and Elton John and all that. But that song was originally written for the movie Night Shift. And if you've never seen the movie Night Shift, A++. Have you ever seen it, Blummer?
No, shoot, I've seen bits and pieces of it. I'd have to go in the Wayback Machine to check that thing out. Michael
Keaton, Henry Winkler. Henry Winkler's first gig after he left Happy Days. And it was Ron Howard's first directing debut. Well, also, I forget her name, but Shelley Long. Absolutely freaking hilarious with more one-liners than you can shake a stick at. I mean, just so good. So good. Anyway, on that version, it was sung by Rod Stewart. But, yeah, Burt Bacharach, absolutely phenomenal songwriter. So rest in peace, Burt. All right, let's get on to it. I'm going to first give us a quick word here for our sponsor. BetOnline remains your number one source for all your sports betting this season. Everything from NFL playoffs, pro and college basketball, UFC, MMA, and more. Obviously, the Super Bowl. Plenty of prop bets still out there to get your hands on. Also, whoever bet on Eric Gordon being traded from the Rockets, I guess you won your bets. That was inevitable, I think. But hey, best wishes to one of the better dudes.
Yeah, all the best to him. He was a great Rocket.
Dudes. Absolutely, one of the best guys too. Just good dude. You'll always find the latest odds, team matchup info, player news, and game trends at BetOnline with live betting options, free contests, and live scores for almost any sport or game imaginable. BetOnline is truly the fastest and easiest way to bet all your favorite leagues and events. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to join and receive 50% off, 50% welcome bonus, with your first deposit. Make sure you use promo code BLEAV to receive rewards. BetOnline.ag, where the game starts. Well, Blummer, let's just hit the ground running. Kyle Tucker lost his arbitration hearing.
Crazy,
I didn't think it was going to come out today. You know, the judge was saying it was going to take some time because he's apparently the people who are hearing the arbitration are hearing a bunch of different players. But yeah, it came out yesterday, getting $5 million this year instead of 7.5. Hey, it's I wouldn't kick it out of bed if somebody handed me $5 million. But kind of interesting that he did end up in arbitration and that he lost. I mean, it was a big difference between the two numbers, 7.5 and 5 million. What are your thoughts?
I was kind of surprised, to be honest with you. Usually it's not just a flat out rejection or, of the player's number. Usually the moderator or the arbitration, whoever's hearing this thing comes back and goes, okay, 6 million out of 7.5. But it was kind of surprising to me that they flat out gave the Astros the win and put them at 5 million. Which, you're right, it's not a number that you can really kick out of bed and say that wasn't the number that I wanted. I'm never going to play again. But at the same time, you start to look at these numbers and you try and figure out why they got to where they were at. And the only thing you could knock on Kyle Tucker is amazingly enough, last, in the 2021 season, he was at a 917 OPS. Mm-hmm. In 2022, he dropped to an 808, yet he had 107 RBI. So, the production value is there. I'm not sure how these things unfold, but those are just some of the first initial numbers you look at that kind of jump at you a little bit.
Yeah.
But if you start to dig a little bit, and I'm sure that Kyle Tucker's team did, last year with runners in scoring position, hit 303. Scoring position with 2 outs, he hit 297. So, it's kind of, it's tough. I know that those hearings are a little rough, and you could leave it jaded a little bit. Fortunately, he is going to get a decent contract, but we keep hearing Dana Brown saying he wants to extend these guys, and maybe this will help that negotiation.
Yeah, the thing I look at too is his batting average. I think was only 240 something, and
it dropped almost 40 points from last year.
Yeah, and his on base percentage was way down. As well. So I just feel like that, obviously the trajectory of that is not good. Now, part of it, I think he just went through quite a slump last year, which I think hurt a lot of those numbers. But
yeah, he had a month in the middle of the year, he hit 212, I think.
Yeah, it was really rough. And also, look, let's be honest, he wasn't spectacular in the postseason. He was fine. He did all right, but he wasn't, he wasn't. Look, Jose Altuve was great in the postseason. There were certain guys. Alex Bregman was great in the postseason. Kyle Tucker was okay, and I think that might have. But you mentioned Dana Brown. Glad you brought that up. Mm-hmm. I mean, he sounds like he's ready to get aggressive with some of these deals. Already talking about extending Bregman and Altuve. Talking about Tucker and Alvarez and Christian Javier. I mean, he sounds exactly like the kind of gunslinger that Jim Crane probably was looking for.
Absolutely. And I just want to go back and take some of the heat for Kyle Tucker not doing well in the postseason, because we had a podcast before the World Series started where I said Kyle Tucker's going to be MVP. And he had that game where he hit 2 bombs, and I'm like, here we go. I called it. I'm a genius. And then all of a sudden, kind of shut it down the rest of the way.
I wasn't going to bring this up, Lummer. I was going to let you off the hook.
Man, I was like, dude, this is my boy. He hit 2 jacks. I'm like, he's going to be a juggernaut and just run away with it. But we know how that turned out with Jeremy Pena taking the title. But he's still it's crazy to me that he's coming off an all-star Gold Glove year, yet he gets reprimanded, and I'm sure it was all offensively. Just another quick note on Kyle Tucker. Early he has a tendency to swing early in counts. I know that his average is pretty high on some of those pitches, but at the same time doesn't really work the count, gets in some of these slumps, and he hit 212 in 1 month and still drove in 107. Imagine if he just hit 250 that month. He might have had 120 RBIs.
Right, and you make a good point about him swinging early. Like that's probably what causes him to have not a great on-base percentage, as well. He's just not getting on base enough.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you don't get the hit on that first pitch, and all of a sudden you're down 0-1, then you find yourself 1-2, 0-2, and you're really fighting out of some of those at-bats. But getting back to Dana Brown, which is probably the bigger point, I think it really feels like Dana Brown has done his research over the years in learning how to become a GM, because he gets into this position. He's been watching the Astros from afar. He's been able to implement some of those ideas with the Atlanta Braves. Now he's an Astro.
Yeah.
And he is in a unique situation where the draft isn't really going to do him any good because the team he is now working for is so damn good. You're going to get the 29th pick. You're going to get the 30th pick. You're going to get supplemental. You're not going to really have the A-plus, blue chip guy to go out there and get. So the guys you have here are already phenomenal all-stars and proven winners. Why not roll in here and give these guys extensions? He has experience in negotiating these contracts like he did with a bunch of guys in Atlanta.
Yeah.
But now I think it's interesting that you have young players like Framber Valdez, Christian Javier, Kyle Tucker. Those are marquee guys that you want to have in your future. But the two names that we hear are Altuve and Bregman, the two cornerstones of this organization right now.
I think I'm not gonna accuse Dana Brown of being calculating here, but it's not going to hurt that you're coming out of the gate and saying these guys are important to us. This is
right.
And look, it is part of the culture of an organization to be cognizant of what's happening with those guys and to be like, listen, we recognize their greatness. And I love the quote from Scott Boras. I saw Mark Berman had his quote saying, well, these kinds of infielders are very valuable, so I'm glad they see. I'm like, shut up, Scott Boras. Nobody wants to hear from you, man. Was it the
He's
line?
He's got these plug-and-play quotes in some of these things. It's just like,
there was this great line.
Captain Cliche now.
There was this great line from the movie The Late Show, which was all about the Letterman-Leno thing. And the character who was playing Letterman, they were telling him he needed to get an agent. He goes, an agent is something you wipe off the bottom of your shoe. Jesus. So terrible. So terrible. But I mean, I feel like Dana Brown, one of the things that really is kind of remarkable about him so far is he's coming out of the gate sort of firing. Like it's very different from, where I wonder if he's going to talk about injuries and saying he's feeling left knee discomfort. I wonder if that's coming out, right? Because he seems like the polar opposite of guys like Click and Luno. He's saying, listen, we'd like to bring Yuli back, but we just don't have any space for him. Like, he's so blunt and direct.
But he has a great what he said after that is where I was like, brilliant. We need to get this guy at bats. Where are we going to find him at bats?
Yes.
And I was like, that is a great use of how to diplomatically say we're not going to bring this guy back.
And I think you're 100% right. It feels like this is a guy who's been prepping for this job for like years. Like he's like everything about it, like the negotiation part, the drafting part, the talking to the media part. It seems like he's just, it's funny. It's like when the Texans hired D'Amico Ryans recently and he sat in that press conference and talked, it was like listening to a guy who just got it. You know what I mean? He just got it from moment one.
No, there's a couple of things in that. There are guys that get it, and I think this is the evolution of not just the general manager's job, but also the managerial job too. Because a lot of my contemporaries who are now managers, I'll ask them. I'm like, "Do you like it? Is it everything you expected? What's hard about it?" And every one of them is sitting there going, "Man, I didn't realize how much I'd have to be in front of the microphone and be a spokesman for the team." They're doing radio shows. They're doing TV interviews. They have scrums before every single game. They've got to do post-game interviews. So the idea of the media being so engaged with these guys is something you have to learn. And I think you're right. Dana Brown understands that, and he's not afraid of it. He does a very good job of getting out in front of it. And that's where I'm most impressed with these guys. Yeah. But that's the evolution of where these guys are moving and getting in front of the microphone and having to give these press conferences. And another thing that you have to understand, too, is watching Dana Brown, and I'm glad you brought up D'Amico Ryan because I'm really excited to see what he's able to do. But if you've got somebody that you have just hired who's prepared, wants the job, and wants to be in this city, it flowed out of those guys. That's where I think, Dana Brown's going to warm up, but I think D'Amico Ryan, he was so excited about being here and wanted this job so bad and got it that he just overflowed with confidence and excitement, and that's where I think both these guys are in the right place at the right time. I
do too, Blummer. You couldn't preach it better. I feel like when it comes to these guys, there is a it factor. You can just vibe it. from them. It comes across the microphone, the screen. It comes across in person. Dusty Baker is obviously one of those guys who's just an it guy, but he's a known entity. We knew that going in. We didn't know Dana Brown. I mean, he came out hot. Like, he's coming out like, here's what we're going to do. Like, I love the fact that he sounds like he has a plan. Like, that's the thing that impresses me about him. Because how many guys have we had in GM positions or coaching positions where they come in and they're just like, well, we're going to get this. It's like, look, whatever you want to say about Luno, about whatever he did or didn't do and however he sort of behaved in the process, that guy knew what he wanted to do. He figured it out and he made it happen, right? And those are the guys that impress me. Mm-hmm.
No, I think that Dana Brown's coming in all guns ablazing, ready to fire. I think he's got a little bit of that old school with the new school mixed in there. And, that's definitely an attitude that Jim Crane enjoys. He likes those guys that are decisive and want to go out there. I think the biggest indicator of how good this hire was, and I don't know if I said this before, but it was when I got on social media and I recognized other fan bases going, damn it, he had to go there. Yes. So that's what tells me he's a great fit.
Yeah, I love that he just came in hot. He's like, we're extending everybody. Like, it's like he came in. It's like, you get a contract and you get a contract and you get a contract. Like, he's just like Oprah giving out cars. I mean, like, just go get it.
That line.
Right, exactly. Also, I noticed he signed I guess what's going to be an assistant GM in Russ Bove. It was a scout for Toronto, so he's obviously starting to get his staff together, which is really good. Now, here's a question. About what he's going to do with his players. What is he going to do with Jake Meyers? My friend Katya brought this up to me. She's a rabid baseball fan, has been for many, many years, and a great friend to the show. And she just brought it up. She's like, you guys need to talk about what's going to happen with Jake Meyers. I mean, we did a deep dive on Chas McCormick just a few days ago. I mean, Jake Meyers was the guy in center field, until he hurt his shoulder. And I mean, what is next for Jake Meyers? Do we even know?
That's a really good question because he was a James Click guy. As long as we're talking about GMs, I know that James Click was really pushing a Jake Meyers in center field. Obviously, the injury in 2021 in the ALDS against the Chicago White Sox set him back greatly with that surgery and really never got his feet back under him. Right. Got back to the big leagues, but just did not look like the same young ball player that we had seen in 2021. So I guarantee you his offseason is working towards getting back to 100% health, playing without fear, playing with a little, reckless, regard for the body, which is hard to do after you've had a pretty catastrophic injury and had that surgery to get back. But if he does get back to being Jake Meyers, he's going to be a valuable asset in the organization if he's not starting. But the question is, do you put him on your bench and have him play sparingly? I don't think that helps a Jake Meyers. I think at bats help Jake Meyers because you have Mauricio Dubon who can fill in center field and relieve Chas McCormick every once in a while. You can move, Brantley to Brantley to right field, Tucker to center field, Alvarez in left field if you really wanted to get a dangerous outfield offensively and give, Chas a day off against maybe a tough right-handed pitcher. But at the same time, you have Pedro Leon. And I think you're going to find out the value of Pedro Leon in center field in the upcoming months because if they do value him, maybe Jake Meyers is a little bit of trade bait. Maybe you throw him out there and give the idea that maybe he's available because we're going to go with Chas and we're going to go with Pedro as our future. And then you have Jake Meyers available to put in there and you say he's got big league experience, maybe add a little value to him to bring somebody back. I don't know. But Jake Meyers is in a little bit of purgatory right now because he's a qualified AAA player. Hasn't proven it yet at the big league level, even though he started in the outfield in the ALDS in 2021. But he's kind of in that, that we call it quadruple A, where you're good enough to be in the big leagues and you're too good to be in AAA, but there's not a spot. So I think a lot of it's to be determined here in spring training and maybe even that first month.
Yeah, I think so. And you make a good point about Pedro Leon because I think the Astros are very high on Pedro Leon. Now, he's going to be out for much of spring training because I think he had sports hernia surgery or something like that. But he had and so I think he's going to miss a chunk of that. That'll obviously help Jake Meyers have an opportunity. the thing about him is his arm ever? I mean, that was the biggest problem I saw with him.
It did not look good.
His arm just fell off a cliff. I mean, he couldn't throw the ball 10 feet. It didn't seem like, and that's to me that would be the worry with a guy like Meyers as well. Can you even put him out there? So I don't know. I think those are all good points, Blummer. I do think you're right. He is a guy that probably could work his way into being traded. The quadruple A thing you say, that's a great. I'd never heard that before until you mentioned it a while back, and I love that because that does represent a lot of guys. You know, there are a lot of guys that get stuck in that sort of weird middle ground.
Well, it's tough, too, when you're playing in an organization like Houston. It's not like, I came up in Montreal and nobody was quadruple A. We went straight to the show if you were good enough because there was nobody, blocking your road to the big leagues. So that's where it's tough being, everybody talked about when I was, the late 90s New York Yankees in the mid 2000s where you were just – they were signing every free agent to 15-year contracts, and you're like, as a AAA guy, you're going, how the hell am I going to get to the show? Now you've got the Houston Astros, who are just a bona fide superstar ball club, and you're like, how am I going to knock Altuve out of his spot? How am I going to get into left field with Yordan? There's certain question marks, so I think that's where you get stuck in there's a greater chance of being stuck in quadruple A with the Astros because of the talent pool.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Well, plus you were in Montreal, everybody spoke French. Nobody's going up there.
And for our French speakers, I learned what tabarnak meant real quick, and it was not good.
Did you learn much French while you were up there?
Yeah, you may have to bleep that out in Canada.
I'll call up Paris, and I'll get what's the Prime Minister of Canada? I'll get him on the phone real quick. Justin Trudeau. Yeah. I'll get Trudeau on the phone real quick and ask him if he's got any issues.
Yeah, he would love to put the censorship on us, man.
Exactly. So, okay, I really want to talk about this a little bit because it's been a topic that I've seen up on social media, and that is Major League Baseball's expansion and realignment.
Ooh.
They're going to expand. There's no question.
Yeah.
The most likely scenario is they will expand to one of three cities, probably, and those three are Charlotte, Nashville, and Portland. Those are like the big three. And then the other one is Vegas. But I think everyone expects that the Oakland A's are eventually going to move to Las Vegas. Apparently what all former Los Angeles, like what all teams in California eventually do is move to Las Vegas. So I think that if you assume that they're going to move to Vegas, and then you assume that either Portland, I think Nashville's getting the team for sure. They seem like, I think it's between Charlotte and Portland, really. I'd love to see a team in Portland, frankly. It would be good for the Mariners fan base, and I think it would be good. And I like Charlotte a lot, but I'm not sure if that.
I mean, they have so much heavy enough to bring.
They have so much minor league baseball in that whole area. That's I'm not sure how you do that, but whatever happens, the league is going to have to realign. They obviously have decided that they want more regional rivalries. That's why we're going to the
Thank God.
Right? Why is this taking so long? Right? It seems so long.
Let's be honest. Come on.
It's so ridiculous.
We all know the answer to that. It's obvious. Sorry.
Blummer? Yeah,
Me and
go
the
ahead.
commissioner. I love that guy.
Get on your soapbox. But here's the thing. Man. Here's the thing. I think what has really dramatically changed everything about realignment is the fact that they have eliminated that they've gone with the universal DH. That to me was the single greatest hurdle to realignment, because people from the National League didn't want to go to the AL and people in the AL didn't want to go to the NL. And by getting rid of that, you've eliminated that. So now, to hell with it. It could be a free-for-all. Why can't the Cubs and White Sox play in the same division? Why can't they? I mean, the Yankees and Mets should absolutely be playing each other a bunch of times a year. The Angels and the Dodgers, it's the Angels. But what do you think about expansion? We know it's going to happen. They're going to be at 32 teams. But I saw one of the ones I saw was 4-team divisions within each league, and the league split by East and West, like the NBA does it, as opposed to just AL, NL. And they had the Astros with the Rangers, the Cardinals, and the Royals. I was like,
oh wow,
man, that would be fun to play the Cardinals all the time. I mean, that was a great rivalry in the National League. What do you think about realignment, Blummer? How do you feel about it? I know some people hate it.
Yeah, well, you just going on experience, and you're completely 100% right about the DH. Once you get that universal DH, all bets are off. Then you can realign, move guys. There's no such thing as interleague anymore, even though they're National League, American League. But it's just a homogenous game right now. Nobody has an advantage in either league. Yep. That being said, as a player, I played in the National League Central. I played in the National League West for a while, and I got to play in the and AL Central, and I played in pretty much everywhere. But the most fun I had and the best time I had was with the Houston Astros for obvious reasons. But at the same time, we were in the National League Central, so everything was up the middle of the country. We were in the same time zone. The furthest travel we had was maybe 2.5, 3 hours to Chicago and Milwaukee. That was about it. Our natural rival was the Texas Rangers, so that was a great trip. And we would do our West Coast swing, in the beginning of the year, end of the year. We'd do our East Coast swing, beginning of the year, end of the year, which wasn't tough because of where we're located down here in Southeast Houston. And it was beautiful. And now that I'm on the broadcast side, and since I've been a broadcaster in 2013, the Astros have moved to the American League West. And I have found that there are some absolutely freaky, awesome, diehard Astro fans that hang out with us until Astros After Dark on the West Coast, which I absolutely love because that's a unique crew.
It is.
But at the same time, I absolutely hate knowing that we are starting a game at 9 o'clock Central Time for the Houston Astro fans. And that is half your schedule almost because they play so many games in the West. That'll change this year. And I think after we get through this balanced schedule, just pray that Rob Manfred gets it, which is hard. Would be hard to believe. But when you start to see more of these regional games, and you see our ratings will go up more consistently. Everybody's ratings are going to go up more consistently, and you're going to go, okay, that means more revenue, more eyes on the game, and everybody's going to begin to love baseball because you don't have to stay up till midnight and go to work or school the next day at 7 a.m. It's ridiculous. Well, so I think realignment's coming, and selfishly, I hope it's us, the Rangers, Arizona, and Colorado. Just because I love those cities.
Yeah, exactly, right? Well, I think that the one that I looked at that I thought was pretty interesting was they also they had like a Southwest division that was like Arizona and the LA teams and I guess Colorado, and then they had
But that's like to your point. If they go to Portland, then you can shove those teams into the Northwest, Southwest. Have the Astros, Rangers, Cardinals up the middle. Bring in the Chicago White Sox, and maybe even Pittsburgh could fit over there because that travel is not going to be that bad. But there are ways you could get really creative and really smart about this because Nashville kind of could be that swing team that could go Central or East and bring in Pittsburgh and Atlanta and really kind of you could go call it the Middle East division, and have those teams over there. So it's fascinating because those two cities you bring up could really create some unique situations. And I know the Seattle Mariners would love having a Northwest because the travel out there is just ridiculous for that team.
It's so brutal for them. They really suffer the worst. I keep thinking, like, if it's Charlotte, why wouldn't it be Atlanta, Charlotte, Miami, Tampa Bay? Like, that's just... I mean, you could drive buses to some of those games.
Those are rivalry games. Yeah, Think about the fact if I'm a Miami Marlin fan and I go to Charlotte, 100%. I can go to Atlanta. I could actually schedule some trips with the family in the summer.
That is 100% accurate. That is. I keep thinking like when they moved into the Rangers, I started thinking, well, hell, I could go to Dallas. I mean, I don't want to go to Dallas,
dude. But there are more Astro fans at Minute Maid Park in South Oklahoma than Texas fans.
I love the Minute Maid Park in South Oklahoma. Do you pull that out on the broadcast, Plummer?
Oh, yeah, I did early. Good. I did everything I could to endear myself to this fan base, and I think that was one of the keys right there.
The only reason I like to go to Dallas is to go to my cousin Matt's restaurant in Encino, which is amazing.
I've yet to go over there. I've got to find that place.
That's the only reason I like to go there is to see my boy. But that travel thing, that's the thing that blows me away. It's like, if I want to, I just think about the opportunity to go to some of these ballparks because, am I going to go? Am I going to go to Seattle in freaking July to go see a game? Fly 4.5 hours or whatever it is to get to Seattle? Yeah. It's just it's brutal. And I feel bad for the Mariners, frankly, and I don't want to feel bad for the Mariners, but I do feel bad.
I really do with the travel. It's bad.
It's brutal. I mean, it's horrible. Can you imagine if them playing Miami? Like, what is that? A 6-hour flight?
Tampa?
I mean, so what is that?
Where's the layover?
Yeah, exactly. You need to spend a night somewhere in between, just so you feel that. That's just ridiculous. It shouldn't be I don't.
It shouldn't be like that. But I mean, I know I'm kind of going off on this a little bit. Keep cutting you off, so I apologize. No. But when you look at it, go back in the past and go through the top 5 teams with the most travel miles in a season, and it literally goes Seattle, Texas, Houston. You know, and they're all in the West, so it doesn't make any sense. They have to realign that.
Yeah, I feel well. Of course, we got screwed with realignment because because when Crane bought the team, we were forcibly removed from the NL. Mm-hmm. We all know that happened. The blackmail that occurred, which to be honest with you, I like the designated hitter. I've said it on here before, so I didn't have a problem with that. But God, to shove us into a division where we're saddled with going to the West Coast. Look, baseball after dark is awesome. I love it. It's fun. There's something really cool about, because it does get a little weird after a certain point.
It gets a little goofy.
And by the way, hats off to the guys at 790 who have to do the call-in shows afterwards. Some of those guys, like I think Michael Connor does them sometimes, and gosh, there are 2 guys like Michael Connor and Chris Gordy are built for that. Gordy. I know,
those guys are awesome.
They're on there, and these guys are calling in. That is Astros.
Yeah,
like all right.
They light them up too, man. I'm like, wow.
I know. Look. One time years ago when I was working in a music store in college, we decided to have like a Midnight Madness sale where we were going to stay up. My boss was like, he was great. We made it until 9 p.m. and then we're like, we got to shut this shit down. Like
no
it was
kidding.
so like people came in hammered already, like grabbing guitars off the wall and like whatever. It's like like all right, we're good. That was a mistake.
This is going south in a hurry.
Let's never do that again. So okay, Blummer, when are you headed out to? You're headed out in a couple of weeks, right? We did talk about this. I'm trying to remember the date. 23rd?
No, I have no problem. Yeah, AT&T, man, finally released a schedule. If you go to Twitter and follow at ATT Sportsnet SW, they'll have a schedule of games. We're going to do 8 of the spring training games televised. Okay. And I will be leaving February 24th to broadcast our first game on February 25th. And I believe it's 25th, 26th, 28th, something like that. But nice. We'll do it towards the end of the month. And also stay tuned to the radio, too, because I will be doing a couple of games on radio, and I will be hosting an Astro line down there for a week when I'm down there. I'll come back on March 2nd or 3rd, hang out for a week with the family before going back down there, because I just found out we're actually flying to West Palm to televise the big WBC matchup between the Venezuelan team and the Houston Astros, which is going to be a lot of fun. Because you've got a couple of guys from obviously Jose Altuve is the big name that's going to be playing for Venezuela, but it's just fun. And Omar Lopez, who was one of my favorite coaches on the team, he'll be managing Team Venezuela. We get to broadcast that, and then you quickly get to the end of the month, and we'll do, I think, 2 more spring training games and that exhibition game out at Sugarland between the Space Cowboys and Astros, that's just going to be that's going to be an exhibition. Obviously, but it's just going to be a lot of fun because I've played in those, but the fervent fan base that's going to be able to be at that stadium and enjoy seeing the current team and the future team is always fun. But that stadium, I mean, Jim Crane and whoever's working down there, I don't know all the names down there, but that is such a fun place to watch a game.
Well, I tried to get tickets to that yesterday, and they are basically sold out. There's like a handful of seats available at Constellation.
How about that?
I know, dude. It's only in the grass in the outfield. That's it. That's
that's still not a bad spot to be with everything they've got going on. I mean,
the only concern you have in the grass is it going to be 1,000 degrees outside? Other than that,
or is it going to be pouring? Did it pour rain the night before, and I'm going to have muddy drawers when I get up?
Exactly. I will say that. Then they're playing. Then they're hosting Space Cowboys at Minute Maid, so that'll be fun too. Those back to back. I think there's going to be some fun. I love the Venezuela thing. I think that's going to be a blast. I don't know if you saw that. Was it Fromber pulled out which I think is probably a good thing. I think he's worried about his pitch count, which I get.
He's wonderful, but he's also very smart. I think he's got a good team around him. And one of the quotes that I did see is he's not concerned, but he's aware of the shoulder fatigue that he doesn't want to take into the season by pitching.
Yeah,
with the WBC team.
You're not going to hear any complaints from me on that one.
Nah. Selfishly, play for us.
Any big weekend plans for you, Blummer?
Weekend plans. We've got. I'm going to have dinner with friends tomorrow night, Saturday, and then Sunday. Adam Clanton. I'm going to go over to his house probably and watch some of the Super Bowl game. Unfortunately, he has in-laws that live in Kansas City, so he'll have his Mahomes jersey on. So I got to figure out what green shirt I'm going to wear.
Yeah, I was going to say you better go pick you up a Fly Eagles fly shirt or something right away. That'll be fun. Of course, you know me, like. Tonight at about 1 a.m., I will be getting on the road to Colorado. So,
look at you, man. You got a crazy week ahead of you.
Oh, man. The drive is going to, I love a road trip, and we're doing it because we're bringing a bunch of stuff with us. I'm not going to say that we're bringing multiple cases of wine, but maybe we are. But we're bringing sleds and like cool stuff. And so we just decided to hell with it. It's just 4 of us. We're going to drive it. My main focus is to not die on the ski slopes in Colorado. I've never been skiing before.
That's always a good trip when what's your main goal? Not to die.
Well, the first question I asked my buddy is, do they have life flight? Like, that's my first major concern. That's the first question I asked.
We're going to see you spinning in that basket as you go towards the helicopter.
Man, I said, can I get a snowboard instead of skis? Because I skateboarded as a kid. I'm skied.
With you. That's exactly why I snowboard.
And so that's what I think I'm going to do. I think I'm going to try the snowboard. And people are like, listen, the main thing to remember is if you get going really fast, like, just fall down. I'm like, listen, you don't have to tell me that. Kid can fall down. Don't worry. I'm not running. I will not die from running into a tree. Right? That's not going to be. That's not going to be me. If a tree is coming,
that in the middle of the
I'm
slope?
ditching it. I don't care how packed down that snow is. I'm hitting the deck. Yeah, I can live with that. So, we will not be here next week as a result because I will be out skiing. Perhaps buried in snow. But thanks again to everyone. We'll be back the week after, the week of the 20th, with more fresh podcasts brought to you by Bet Online. We love hearing from all of you guys. Obviously, continue to send us your thoughts and your questions. Keep linking and subscribing. Especially give us them stars on Apple. I hate saying that, but you know what? Damn it. Come on, kids. Come on, son. It's time for you to make it happen. Keep it coming. Just 49 days till opening day. Pitchers and catchers report next week. When we're going to be, when I get back, we're going to be shot out of a cannon when it comes to spring training. It's going to be all happening all at once. And then I get to start listening to spring training games on the radio, which is one of my favorite things in the world to do. Some of the most relaxing.
Robert Ford, Steve Sparks, money.
I love when they're just talking and they're like, and it's quiet. You can hear the concession guys yelling in the background, and they're just sitting there and like, well, we've got a group from the Kiwanis Club here today. That's outside for ball one.
That's all Sparky.
It's my favorite kind of stuff. So thanks, everybody, for joining us. We will see you in a week. Have a great week. Go Astros.